or first item on the agenda, October 26 minutes. Any changes?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay, stand as written. Next item, do we have any citizen comments? Non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to consent. We have
Wait,
no.
you didn't give him enough time.
They didn't move, so we're moving
Nobody
on.
moved.
No consent agenda, right? There's nothing. Okay, next item on the agenda, Fort Hays University update. Dr. Tisa Mason. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's always good to be here and give you an update on Fort Hays State University. And always, I want to say thank you for your service. Your jobs are easy, and as I said before, I know it's more than parades and ribbon cuttings. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start. I have a packet there. And in the packet, I'm going to reference this. So these are really the slides. They're not up there. Just to give you kind of an outline of how I'm going to do this, because I want to do it faster rather than slower, because we have a lot of stuff to share. I'm going to just do a couple of demographic slides, talk very briefly about economic impact and community engagement, and then my colleague Jason Zeller is going to get up and give you a quick update on CITI, which is our Cyber Security Institute and Technology Incubator. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where we are in affiliation, and then we will move on and let you know what we are going to be seeking from the legislature this year. So that, if you will start on page 2 of your handout, the bottom demographic, just want to mention that if you look at our academic year 2023, we served nearly 17,000 students. Pretty remarkable. As a long-term strategy, we continue to diversify our educational programs. So you may note that our international partnerships are students that are earning dual degrees on the campuses in Bolivia, Brazil, China, Cambodia, and the Senegal. So we continue to diversify our dual degree program internationally. On page 3, you'll see our academic year 2023 students represent every county in Kansas, all 50 states, 47 different countries, and every branch of the military. Specific to Kansas, we served nearly 8,000 students in Kansas, over 5,000 students in our service area, over 4,000, about 4,700 students from Salina West, and over 2,000 students in Ellis County. On page 4, you'll note that our 20th day fall enrollment is better than we were modeling at the beginning of the year, and we are very happy to report being up in Kansas residents, first-year students, Hispanic students, our campus housing, and our freshman retention. On page 5, I believe you're familiar with our economic impact study that we do every couple of years. And in fiscal year 2022, in Ellis County alone, our impact was estimated to be between $167.8 million to $239 million. And on pages 6 to 7, we identified some areas of engagement, noting, of course, our 43,000 visitors to the Sternberg Museum of Natural History. I thought that was an important one to highlight.
That was.
About 86,000 visitors for athletics, and nearly 400,000 students, families, and visitors walked through the door into our Memorial Union last year. So now, from the demographics and the impact, I'm going to step aside and let Jason give you a quick update on the Cybersecurity Institute.
Thank you.
All right. So if you guys haven't heard of CITI before, which is the Cybersecurity Institute and Technology Incubator, we are a program that was funded by the state of Kansas to offer cybersecurity services to small, medium businesses. And it could be of multiple caliber of services that are through there. The students themselves are educated to handle those service requests. The business, it doesn't cost them anything, and the students get paid for their services. So they get a micro internship opportunity. It's generally about 40-hour projects or less, and they can work on those projects, build up credentials with the different community members, and that's across the state of Kansas. So we've started here in Hays. We've got about 4 projects running right now, and then from there we plan on branching outside of Hays and beyond. So if you know some small businesses that need some cybersecurity work, that could be anything from website development to a security audit to just about anything they can go ahead and service those needs and cover that for them.
We all know that's very important right now. So
Yes.
thank you.
And again, that is complimentary, so get the
Even
word
better.
out, please.
Even better.
And the nice thing is that not only do we get to do the service for the businesses, but then Jason will get feedback on the soft skills of the students to help them be better as they go out into the field, which is also important. I'm going to now talk briefly about our affiliation with North Central and Northwestern Technical College. So if you'll start on bottom of page 13. This information references our why for the affiliation, and simply put, we want to help Western Kansas by no longer working in competition or even a simple cooperation, but strategically joining forces and working together to help students, businesses, and Western Kansas communities thrive. On page 15, you'll see that the affiliation structure basically requires a governance transfer from the local technical college boards to Fort Hays State University, with all three institutions maintaining their separate funding streams, which has been really important. There are separate higher learning commission accreditations, the federal EINs, and our Department of Education numbers. Those all remain separate. In terms of a timeline, all three governing boards approved the enabling legislation and documentation unanimously last year. The legislation passed during the 2023 legislative session with only one no vote. And we are closing the transaction by requesting the Higher Learning Commission's approval and finalizing the formal agreement between all of the parties. The goal remains to be able to start admitting students under the new structure by fall of '24. On page 16, you'll see that once the Higher Learning Commission approves the change in governance, hopefully this summer, we unite with one brand. On pages 17 and 18, we have been strategic about the implementation process, ensuring that is incremental, driven at the grassroots levels by subject matter experts, and focused on crucial workforce priorities. So you can see that we also are working closely with industry partners, and I want to thank them for helping us think strategically into the future.
Dr. Mason, I have a question.
You betcha.
You know how things are in athletics. They're really all going to be Tigers, and they're all going to have black and gold?
Yes, they are.
Wow. That's terrific.
That has passed both of the tech college boards unanimously.
Wow, that's great.
There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of concern. It's hard to change your identity. In Northwest, they said they've done it before. But President Burks talks a lot about a strong football team. You have defense, you have offense, you have special teams, but you all put on the same uniform. And we all think that's important.
Good.
And with our 13 state initiative for regional tuition, we'll be able to bring more students into the area for technical education, as well as stackable degrees and lots of opportunities all the way up to doctorate in nurse practitioning.
Very good. Very good.
That's awesome.
Finally, I want to talk a little bit about our workforce initiatives and what we're going to be focused on the Kansas legislature this year. So we have 4 asks which have been blessed by the Kansas Board of Regents. First of all, our nursing program is extraordinary. Their focus on rural nursing and why that is different, a lot of people don't understand that. We recently have been reaccredited in our BSN as well as our Doctorate of Nursing Practice. We've also had a pass rate in our DNP program consistently at 100%. Our BSN program has exceeded the state of Kansas average, the national average, and the KBOR average. We are on track this year for 100% there as well. So this summer, our nursing department went to the Kansas Board of Nursing, and as a result, our quota has been upped from 65 to 90 students per cohort. That's going to be incredible, and we do have a waiting list. So we are going to ask the legislature for $15 million to put on a 2-story addition onto Stoop Hall, and then another $400,000 to hire 3 more nursing faculty, as well as a simulation lab coordinator. So that's our really big ask. We've also done a lot of work and thinking and planning around expanding professional continuing and workforce development education. This is a wave that is developing and is hitting our country strong. We want to drive technical education, specialized certifications, and respond to the rapidly growing need for reskilling and upskilling, especially as AI and other trends significantly disrupt the work environment as we know it today. Jobs will be turning over, going away, and new jobs will be coming on, and we want to be at the forefront. That is going to take what we're calling an angel investment. We're asking for $750,000 for 5 years till we prove concept and start generating enough revenue to sustain itself. Our third ask and our fourth ask are really minor in terms of the state budget, but important. We want to supplement mental health education, which is so important, with tele-certification and really getting those specific skills, which is critical to rural communities. And finally, sort of like our modeling off of our micro internships, our graduate program, computer science, continues to grow. It's growing online. We want to bring some of those students into our community and get them on campus. So we're asking for some assistantship money. But instead of just putting that graduate TA in a classroom, we want to take some of their time, like we're doing with the micro internships, and put them in schools, nonprofits, and small businesses to help them with their computer and their IT needs. So that is what we will be doing and have already started to position for in Topeka this year. With that, I stand for questions.
I can't imagine anybody saying no to any one of those.
Well, it's nice when you guys show the numbers you show. I mean, like you said, I don't know how they can tell you no, but I know you've been crazy busy traveling the state, but thank you. And I mean, I can't wait about 5 years to see where this has gone. And I mean, and with all the, cyber for local businesses, I mean, small businesses are getting hit harder than anybody right now and stuff. So that's very much appreciated. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
I'm really impressed with the workforce development. We need it so badly, and I think this city, I'll start calling it the city, those micro internships are wonderful, but I think the nursing program, and I happen to know someone that's going through one right now, I mean, it's unbelievable, and they come out of there, they're in demand no matter what their degree in. The one that's going on right now is an ARPN, and I mean, that's a big degree. It's wonderful. Congratulations, you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for doing what you do to help our city stay strong.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, rezoning request from Agriculture District to Public and Institutional District and Light Industrial District for Worth Development Group LLC.
All right. Good afternoon, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. I know these next few items here we discussed in depth last week, so I'm going to kind of move right through them. So stop me at any time if you have questions. I thought about adding about 30 slides to last week, but I didn't do that for you.
Got my attention.
So Kim ran out of batteries.
That was
so.
long enough.
All right. So the first item, the WDG first edition, is to consider the rezoning. We have received an application to rezone the property from agriculture to two different districts, one being the public and institutional, or PI district, and the second being light industrial, or I-1 district. The total property is approximately 58 acres. It is located north of I-70, west of Hall Street. And here you can see the picture on the right. It is divided into two tracts, which we'll talk a lot about in one of the next agenda items when we talk about the platting. So the image on the left shows the current zoning of the property. As I mentioned, it is ag currently. And the picture on the right is from the comprehensive plan and the land use map. It denotes the property as urban reserve, which means it's basically prepped for development, ready for development, and rezoning at any time. So here's a breakdown of the two properties that are being rezoned. As I mentioned, the north tract going from ag to public and institutional district, and the south one from ag to light industrial. With all zonings, I'd like to quickly show the uses that could be allowed if the zoning is approved here today. So within the north tract, or the public and institution zoning. These are the uses that would be permitted by right. You can see they're generally government or public type uses for the most part. There are some uses that we call limited uses. These could also be allowed on the property if rezoned, but there would be special considerations placed on them or special conditions if they were to be proposed on the property. And then the third group are what we call uses by exception. If any of these were to be located on the public institution district, then they would require a special use permit, or excuse me, an exception through the Board of Zoning Appeals and public notice and public hearing process. And then the uses for the south lot, that would be the light industrial. You can see it's an extensive list of uses that can be located in light industrial. Anything from some of your public uses like hospitals, libraries, museums, to certain retail, office space, warehousing and distribution, things like that. So these are uses by right in light industrial. Again, we have what we call limited uses. So again, these would also be allowed, but with certain conditions. And then the third group would be the uses, again, by exception through the Board of Zoning. So these are the least likely uses that we would see on the property. The zoning process did go through the Planning Commission, and the decision was unanimous to recommend approval of the zoning to the City Commission. These would be the three options that state statute gives you, the governing body, in making a zoning decision. This would be the action requested.
I move we adopt ordinance number 4040, approving the change in zoning from agricultural district AL to public and institutional district PI and light industrial district I1 for 2 tracts of land located just north of Interstate 70 along Hall Street as legally described.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Barry. Any comments?
I was just excited that Sandy was willing to jump in and take the long reading list.
Long read.
That's good.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, WDG First Edition Final Plat.
Okay, so it's the same property, only this time we're talking about the final plat. So staff did receive an application to plat the property. Platting of the property would allow subdivision of it into the tracts as you see here. It also sets aside proper utility easements and right-of-way necessary for development. Here's the overall plat. We always like to show you the entire plat itself. Again, you can see the 2 lots there. The south is bounded by I-70, and on the east side of the plat, the 2 lots would be Hall Street. So everything, again, does lay west of Hall Street. Here's just another close-up view of the 2 lots, and then on the right, it just has the aerial image behind it. Each lot, lot 1, the lot on the north is about 25 acres, and the second lot's about 29 acres. The plat has been reviewed by staff and Utility Advisory Committee, and any concerns or issues were addressed and taken care of at that time. So your options on the plat be to either approve, or you could request further changes to the plat if you know of any, or not approve the plat. But this is the action requested.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-020, accepting the WDG First Edition Final Plat.
10 words, and you could.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Reuter, second by Commissioner Cunningham. Any other comments on that? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, annexation of Worth Development Group LLC property. Again.
All right, so the final item on the WDG edition, so this is the annexation, so we can bring it into the city limits. Again, by now we're well familiar with the location of the property. So the developer has requested annexation of the entire tract, including both the platted lots and then any necessary right-of-way and easements around the property. Here's the same image, just again shows the aerial photography behind it. One thing I do want to point out is the annexation will add to the city's street maintenance responsibilities for Hall Street. You'll remember the agreement that was approved between the city and county earlier this year. The picture on the left, that would be per the agreement. That actually kicks in January 1 of 2024. However, upon approval of the annexation, that would extend up to what we call 52nd Street, which is basically the north end of the development. So the city would have full maintenance responsibility of Hall Street from 41st all the way up to 52nd. And we have no concerns with that. The road's in good condition, and we're prepared to take over maintenance at any time. So your options on annexation, either annex or not. So
Who wants it?
I move we adopt ordinance number 4041, annexing 2 tracts of land located just north of Interstate 70 along Hall Street as legally described within the adopting ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cunningham, second by Commissioner Reuter. I think it's good, positive growth for our community.
And I noticed that, we have Neil's here to make sure that we understand that we're taking over that road.
Well, to make sure we're passing it.
And it's gonna stay the same for a while,
Right.
correct?
And then, Jesse, I know you addressed it last week, but that, what is that, 52nd, right?
yes,
That will remain a private drive, correct?
yes. So the very north end, just north of the plat boundary, that what's essentially a driveway. It's technically not a road, but it looks and acts like a road. So that will remain private. It won't be city maintained or county maintained as it is now, and is not actually part of the plat. So at the planning commission, that was one question. There were some of the owners that live back there present. That was really the only question, was to make sure that was protected, and it is. And there were no other concerns. So.
Thank you.
And Jesse, if you didn't mention this before, if you mentioned it, I apologize, but since there is a representative from the county here, it is our intent to acquire right-of-way on the east side, just to get the full right-of-way allotment for the road, so we don't have even though we've agreed to take over, we don't have the center line out to deal with.
Right, and I do have a verbal agreement with the property owner on the east, and we're working through those documents now, and the annexation of that will come to you at a future date. So.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Makes sense. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse. I guess you're next again. Next item on the agenda, proposed United Development Code amendments.
All right, so now we're going to talk about 3 different amendments we're looking to make to the Unified Development Code, or UDC. They pertain to storage units, plan developments, and cul-de-sac regulations. So again, we went over these in a lot of depth last week, and so I'll kind of breeze through them. If you have questions, stop me at any time. So I'll start with self-storage, and what I'll do is I'll run through each one, give a kind of a staff planning commission recommendation, and then at the very end, we'll have an action requested item for all 3. So first off, self-storage. Currently, self-storage is only allowed in light industrial districts of the city. What you see on the screen here are conditions. This is considered a limited use in light industrial, and these are the conditions. So they particularly kind of pertain to setbacks, drive surfaces, and activities that go on with the storage units themselves. So we've had no issues with this. We're not looking to change this in any way. But again, currently we can only do this in light industrial. So what we're mostly talking about tonight are 2 changes. The first bullet point here, again, we're not looking to change anything in light industrial. We would like to consider allowing them in heavy industrial, or I2, as they are the same as they're allowed in I1. And then we'd also like to consider an allowance in C2, or general commercial districts. However, there would be 3 specific conditions if approved. And those conditions are that it would be accessed from the interior only. It can only be done in existing buildings, and then placement of the units. They could not be located north of I-70 or on any property with Vine Street frontage or that has direct access from Vine Street within the C2 district. And I'll show some maps and things here in just a second. So on the left, you have your typical storage units that we have here in the community. On the right, this is a building. This is actually on the east side of town on Canterbury, out by the high school. This actually was the building that kind of started the discussion about storage units in C2. And there's thoughts of turning at least a portion of the building into interior storage units. So here's a couple buildings that, as far as I know, have not been considered for storage units, but we wanted to show a couple examples of currently vacant buildings that kind of led to the discussion at the work session last week about location of storage units and protection of certain properties for other uses. So this map shows light and heavy industrial zoning districts. So you can see within the core of the city, there's really no heavy or light industrial uses. We kind of have some at the northwest side of town, and then down at the southeast corner of town, near Old Highway 40, Commerce Parkway. There are some far north on Vine Street, off of Vine Street, so 48th Street and 55th, some light and heavy industrial there. And there's a little bit on the far south end of Vine. So you can see, again, they're already allowed in I-1, and if you made the recommendation to allow them in I-2, this is where storage units could be allowed with the limited uses you saw on one of the first slides. So this map shows areas zoned C2 within the city. So everything in blue is zone C2. Those are our primary commercial districts. So if approved as recommended, the areas north of I-70 that are zone C2 and any areas, again, that front Vine or have direct access to Vine that are zone C2 would not be allowed to have storage units. The other areas in blue that are C2 that aren't within those areas, storage units would be allowed, but they would be interior only and only for existing buildings. And again, that's if you approve it as recommended and discussed last week. So again, this recommendation shows, again, what I just mentioned with the limitations on the commercial. Questions on storage units?
Could you go back, please?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding your graphics. You got the X up top. Does that mean all Vine? Is that covering all Vine?
So the X is covering all property north of I-70. All C2 property north of I-70.
C2. Okay, that's where-
This only applies to
Gotcha,
C2, right?
gotcha.
And the ordinance would be structured so that those conditions would only apply to property zone C2.
Gotcha. Sorry.
If they're light industrial, heavy industrial, anywhere in the city or within the city's ETJ, they could be
I was
located.
getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
No problem.
I have a quick question. So this all makes perfect sense, but we also know that north of I-70, there's some areas that could undergo some development that would be either C2 or light industrial. Would those in the future, like would they still be in this? Would they be adopted into this as not being able to have self-storage, or would they be, because it would be after this?
Yeah, any future zonings, the C2 would apply to the same regulation. So
So if it's north of I-70, it doesn't matter if it's new,
someone
it would
wanted to go
still.
north of I-70 and if they wanted storage units that weren't interior or existing buildings, they would not want to zone a C2.
Right, they would have to zone light industrial to be able to do it.
Okay.
And we do have some, as Jesse mentioned, some light industrial up there that could be a candidate
Right.
for it.
Jesse, is that, sorry, I know you just clicked off of it.
problem.
To the far right, there's some C2 is that Commerce?
Yeah, there's some out on
That's too long.
Commerce, and
Toulon.
yeah, there's
Toulon Road.
some out there, way out there on Toulon, which is just,
Okay.
some of that's just on the edge of our ETJ, our extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Okay.
I like the fact that you did that. You stepped out in there.
I know.
We hear all
I
sorts of
resisted, but I-
TIFs and CIDs and everything, and you went right there and
it. I like it.
defined it. I,
Three-letter acronyms.
Okay, let's keep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the second of the three are pertaining to plan developments. So plan developments, just in general, it's a type of development that is in addition to the zoning and plating of a property that's intended to give developers flexibility and more choices on how a development will be laid out. So plan developments require much more in-depth information and planning for the developer up front regarding the types of structures in the development and the types of different uses within the development. So the trade-off that the developer gets for the additional flexibility is it locks them into a certain type of development. So if you have a lot or a development, say with 50 lots, it's a planned development, and they're going to build 50 single-family homes out there. A couple years down the road, if they want to combine lots and build homes, they can't do that in a planned development without coming back to the governing body with a new plan. So it sets the stage not only for the developer and the city, but also for the future lot owners, provide some protections for them. It also gives them flexibility of uses. So besides single-family homes, they could have multifamily apartments, community structures, community buildings, things like that as well. So I'll show you a couple examples of some planned development. We haven't done a planned development in Hayes. I know it's been at least 30 years, probably more, so it's been a long time, but it's a tool that's always been in the zoning regulations, but we just haven't used it. So we do have something on the table currently with a developer, and we're hoping to get a planned development going. So this is actually a planned development in Andover, Kansas. You can see on the right the variety of the different homes they offer. Again, typically a developer will have certain homes for certain lots, a few choices for a lot owner and homeowner to pick from. But you can see it's laid out. They'll lay out not only streets and lots, but typically they'll lay out the buildings, setbacks on the property, and any community spaces as well. Here's just a few of the homes within that development I showed you.
Mason's house.
Mason's house?
They're pretty sweet.
And then here's actually, this is actually the Grove. You have recently approved the plating and zoning annexation for the Grove, located east of Canterbury, north of Hayes Med. So this is a future plan development. So if approved, if we can get some of these changes approved here, then the developer will hopefully take advantage of those regulations for this particular development. So within our regulations, there's two primary tables that we're looking at changes to help facilitate a plan development and provide that flexibility that I was talking about. So on this table, what we're mostly dealing with is decreasing the minimum lot size. We're also decreasing the total open space ratio, which is the ratio of open space for the entire development itself. And in turn, what that does is increases the gross density of the property. So that's what we're all about, is trying to get more dense properties. As we know, there is a demand for that sort of thing right now, so the developer thinks he can make a go of it. And then the second table, table 31202A, primarily deals with setbacks within the property. So standard setbacks for standard residential development are typically 25-foot front yards, 15-foot rear yards, 7-foot or 5-foot side yards. So this decreases front, side, and rear setbacks if the developer wishes. Again, these are minimums. They can have increased setbacks if they desire, but again, it allows for more buildable space without having to increase the lot size.
Jesse, I got a question on
Yes.
that. I know when we were doing this before, we had where there was houses built and then the garages were built much higher. I thought we had changed that to where the garages have to be the same height or can't be higher. Is that still correct with this?
Right, and that would be for detached accessory
Detached,
garages.
yes.
Right. Yeah, those regulations would still pertain, unless, again, if the developer came as part of their plan development, let's say they wanted detached garages and they wanted them taller, they could request that. A plan development approval will go not only through staff, but through the planning commission and the governing body. So when we see plan development, you'll see that, and you'll see all those details. The developer will lay it out for you with what they're planning, and if that were something they chose to do, they could request it, and that would be up to the governing body to.
If they did a planned development, it'd be pretty uniform. You know, if we-
Exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up. That is the other thing provided within a plan development, is uniformity within the whole development itself.
Isn't that why we changed that? Is because it was so ununiform? People were doing different areas and.
Right, and we had, that particular case, we had very tall accessory buildings
Right,
being built
right.
in areas that,
Okay, I know it's a different thing. I'm just curious. Thank you.
so our recommendation and the planning commission's recommendation on the plan development would be, again, really to make those changes in the two tables that you mentioned. They seem small, but they have big impacts. So.
Yeah.
Any questions on plan development before I get to the third topic?
Good.
All right. Okay, so the last one is cul-de-sac regulations. So in 2016, that's when we adopted the current zoning regulations known as the UDC. And at that time, or prior to that time, the city of Hayes allowed cul-de-sacs up to 600 feet in length. Throughout discussion of the UDC between staff and the planning commission and the development committee of the UDC, and ultimately the governing body, it was decided at that time that cul-de-sacs would be limited to 150 feet for various reasons, which I'll get into. So here's just a couple images out of the UDC. Talks about how we measure cul-de-sacs. Again, we only allow them up to 150 feet now, which is relatively short. We do require connectivity at the end of cul-de-sacs in certain cases when there's multi-use paths or other other scenarios. So the picture on the right there, you can see where there's sidewalks that connect sidewalk or cul-de-sac bulbs to other developments. So there's reasons that cul-de-sacs are probably desirable, and there's contrary to that, there's right reasons why they're not so desirable as well. So as you can see here, the list of desirable, those that like them, there's potentially a reduction in traffic, increased privacy since it's not a through street. A lot of times you have larger lot sizes, particularly at the end of cul-de-sacs, maybe narrower at the front and wider at the back, providing bigger rear yards. And then the last one, somewhat debatable, but cul-de-sacs, depending on the area, are often perceived to have, not only are they perceived to be a better or more desirable location, but because of that, they're perceived to have a higher property value potentially, or resale value. But there's also reasons why cul-de-sacs may not be desirable. Traffic congestion is on there because similar to, we're all familiar with Smoky Hill in the northwest part of town. Smoky Hill itself does carry a lot of traffic because all the cul-de-sacs feed out onto Smoky Hill there. It's considered a collector street. It handles it well, but there's probably more traffic on it than it would be if it was a grid street system. I kind of mentioned the limited connectivity, not only for drivers, but also pedestrians. Maybe an inefficient land use, again, depending on how the land lays within the development. The walkability reduction kind of goes along with the limited connectivity. And then there can be limited emergency access in the event there's an issue, maybe the narrowness of the streets and the option to only get in one way. So again, I mentioned that our current regulation only allows them up to 150 feet. We did go out and kind of survey 30 various cul-de-sacs in the city of Hayes and have an average length of 445 feet. So throughout the late 80s and through the 90s and early 2000s, that was our primary type of development that we saw. You can also see the list of other cities here. So cul-de-sacs are very common. In the cities here, they range anywhere from 300 feet to 1,000 feet in length. After a discussion at the Planning Commission and among staff and developers, again, this came about because of a developer request. We feel there's probably justification in some developments to allow cul-de-sacs longer than 150 feet. So the language we're proposing to go to would allow a maximum cul-de-sac of 650 feet as long as the justification was provided at the time of platting. So not only would staff take part in that discussion, but the Planning Commission and the governing body would as well. So we feel it's a good kind of happy medium, not allowing them outright, but if it's justified because of topography or lay of land, whatever it may be, we want the developer to be able to do that. So, any questions there?
Plus, if it's longer, then the more people can see your candidate signs. If it's really short, nobody's going to see it.
That's right. That's right. I'll add that to the list for next time. So. So this would be the action requested on all the 3 UDC items that we talked about.
I got to redeem myself here. I move to approve ordinance number 4042, adopting the various UDC amendments as presented and drafted in the adopting ordinance.
Second.
Good job.
Great motion by Commissioner Reuter, second by Commissioner Cunningham. Are we clear on everything that we're getting ready to vote on? I think it makes sense.
I think it's all good moves, all good moves. We had a great discussion last week, I felt.
I would say,
and
I
think we
appreciate,
covered
even
it.
though it was lengthy.
I think
I
we
appreciate
made all
the
good
discussion.
decisions.
And I think for the business owners, developers, hopefully maybe some of this makes it easier for them, hopefully.
Everything you're approving is something that's not allowed now.
Right.
So it will be allowed with these changes. So.
I agree, and I Chris, thanks again for, explaining some things to us. How we get to where we're at now is through the discussion, and can't fix what we don't know. So appreciate you, explaining some stuff. So. Absolutely agree. But I think it makes sense, and I think it's all good moves.
Very good. Okay. Jesse, thanks for the great explanation on all that. Appreciate it. And did you get him new batteries this week?
He's covered now.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, 10th and Walnut, moderate income housing, resolution of support.
Good afternoon, Jared Kuckelman, Management Analyst. We'll be talking about a resolution of support for a 10th and Walnut MIH grant. So just a little bit of background. The Kansas Housing Resources Corporation administers a variety of housing programs for the state, including the Moderate Income Housing Grant Program, which is intended to serve the needs of households that don't typically qualify for federal housing assistance. So due to the increased need for housing all across the state, there's been an allocation of around $60 million to KHRC to administer and support the MIH programs, and KHRC is currently accepting applications for their third round of funding this year. So KHRC has offered 2 grant programs recently, one for the traditional MIH funding, which has been used here in Hayes for the project at Frontier Apartments by Mr. Pagant, and then the MIH ARPA program. The main difference between the two has been the amount of funding that either one offered, but the MIH ARPA program has allocated all its money and they are no longer accepting applications for that program. You may recall that there was a resolution of support for this project for an MIH ARPA grant. Unfortunately, that grant was not awarded, and so the developer is now applying for a traditional MIH grant. So this is the property where the project will be occurring on West 10th Street between Elm and Ash. It's commonly recognized as the parking site for the old train depot. In 2017, the City of Hayes issued a request for proposals for the redevelopment of the property, which is owned by the city. Unfortunately, no viable proposals were received, and so the site has remained vacant since then and ready for redevelopment. Here's just a street view of the site. So with the need for additional housing locally, developer Michael Graham has submitted a proposal for a 48-unit multifamily housing project. The project would include 2 separate buildings with 24 units in each one. There would be 36 units of 1-bedroom apartments and 12 units of 2-bedroom apartments. The developer estimates the cost of the project to be approximately $5.8 million. And you may be familiar with some of Michael Graham's other successful infill apartment projects at 7th and Oak, and then the current project that's going on at 4th and Fort Streets, which have been making some progress in recent months if you've been by there lately. So here's some renderings of the front and back elevations of the buildings. So the first story in each building would be garage space for the tenants, and the living units would be located on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. Here's the 3rd and 4th floors. The 2-bedroom units are located at the end of the buildings, and then the 1-bedrooms are located in the middle here. So the property is already zoned appropriately. However, the developer would still need to plat it accordingly. So for an MIH grant, only cities and counties with a population less than 60,000 are eligible to apply. And a resolution of support from the governing body is required as part of the submission of the application. As part of the question that was asked last week, the grant requires construction to begin usually within about 6 months, and it is required to be completed within 18 months unless prior approval from KHRC has been provided. So that the grant would officially be between the City of Hayes and KHRC, as cities are and municipalities are technically only allowed to be the applicants. So some of the grant requirements include monthly reports, reimbursement requests, and tracking of tenant income for 5 years. City staff doesn't really have the capacity to keep track of that all for that time period, so the city attorney has drafted a couple documents to help with this, which were included in the packet. First is the assumption agreement, in which the city unconditionally assigns all grant agreement rights and obligations to Mike Graham's LLC, with such LLC bound by all of the terms. And the second is the personal guarantee, in which Michael Graham personally, irrevocably, and unconditionally guarantees to the city prompt payment of all amounts due under the agreement, prompt performance of all grantee assignee obligations, as well as the city's fees and expenses of collection. And this was the same arrangement that was used for the MIH grant that was used at Frontier Apartments. So for the financial consideration, the developer has requested an RHID, which is done through a separate process and we'll get to later on in the meeting. If the MIH grant is approved, the funds will be provided by KHRC upon approval of the eligible project costs, The developer will agree to indemnify the city for any costs or expenses related to the MIH grant program. So these will be the options for you today. You can adopt the resolution, decline it, or provide other direction. And this is-
I move we adopt resolution number 2023-021 in support of a moderate income housing grant application.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Berry, second by Commissioner Jacobs.
I have a question. I know it's in here. I've heard it or read it, but when are these grants awarded?
Notice is expected probably around mid-January. That's
So they would
according to
have
the
until end of 2025, I mean, end of the summer 2025, probably. Okay.
completed, yes.
Thank you.
They can say, in the way it works is it says that you can put in your application if you expect a longer time frame than that, and they can approve that or not. But that's if you don't ask for that, that's the time frame that's expected.
I was just
So-
considering his project down by Washington School, but I would think that'd be done at that time.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be the biggest concern.
Thank you.
I think I talked to him just a couple weeks ago, and he said that if this went through, he would look forward to getting it done within the 2-year time frame. So it's
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, resolution making certain housing needs, findings, and determinations.
Good afternoon, Ken Rupp, Director of Finance. We are in receipt of an application for a rural housing incentive district, as alluded to from Jared, from Michael D. Graham Rentals. The developer seeks to construct those 48 apartments he talked about. The very first step in this is adopting a resolution making certain housing needs, findings, and determinations, as advancing that statutory process for the RHID creation. Following adoption and publication, the resolution is sent on to the Kansas Secretary of Commerce for approval and then move forward with the creation process. As a refresher, RHID is defined by the city or county establishing the district, and it's based on the housing needs analysis. And that last analysis was done in December 21 by the Fort Hays Docking Institute. That analysis must show a shortage of quality housing. The shortage is expected to persist. The shortage is a substantial deterrent to future economic growth, and development of quality housing is dependent on these incentives. The proposed development does fit within the findings of that report. The RHID captures 100% of the increment property taxes, less 1.5 mils to the state, 20 mils to the school district. They can be for up to 25 years per project and can be financed by either bonds or pay-as-you-go. However, our own economic development policy prohibits bond financing. Therefore, the proposed development would be pay-as-you-go. And at expiration, the total improved valuation will be restored to all the taxing jurisdictions. Jared showed a map. This is a map of the proposed district. And then part of this proposal does include the city transferring property to the developer based on an improvement plan or an approval of an improvement plan. Jared mentioned the 5.8 million. It can be a term up to 25 years. The developer does estimate about 572,500 of eligible expenses and can only be reimbursed back to them. However, he is estimating the RHID would produce about $1,245,709 in increment. Developer does expect to begin construction in late first quarter 24, following all the city's approvals and pending his MIH, I would believe. So to move forward, we need approval of this resolution, and KSA 12-5241 authorizes us as an incorporated city with a population of less 60,000 to designate rural housing incentive districts. The resolution also finds that the 21 housing needs analysis does find a shortage of quality housing, that it's expected to persist. The shortage is substantial enough to be a deterrent to future economic growth and development, and finally, that such future economic well-being depends on providing additional incentives for construction or renovation of quality housing. And then the last consideration of the resolution is it defines the boundaries of the RHED, as we showed earlier. It is a lengthy process. This is where we're at now. We'll be wrapping up around March of 24. It includes the resolution, tonight's resolution, and then the resolution to adopt a development plan and calling a public hearing. holding the public hearing, and then adopting an ordinance to accept the development plan and create the district. Options would be to adopt the resolution, decline, or provide us with other direction, and we do request that you approve the resolution to keep it moving forward.
I move we adopt resolution number 2023-022, making certain housing needs, findings, and determinations.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cunningham, second by Commissioner Barrett. Any comments? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next, thank you, sir. Next, we will have the real leaders of our community. Update from the Youth Leadership Advisory Board. Please say your name for the record, please.
Not me.
It gets easier. Thank you guys for being here.
Hello, we are the Youth Leadership Advisory Board. I'm Evan Cox, the chairperson of the board.
I'm Isabel Jones, the vice chairperson.
I'm Mia Lang, and I'm the social media coordinator.
I'm Preston Murmis, and I'm working with the Explorers program.
And I'm Henry Fitzum.
Good job, Henry.
Great job.
Way to go, Henry.
And we're also missing two of our members today. We also have Nathan Steckline, who is actually preparing for one of our events tomorrow right now. And then we also have Cy Drobeck, who is our secretary. So he keeps all of our notes, which is like not the easiest job. So we thank him. And yeah, and so we just wanted to talk a little bit about ourselves for the people that maybe don't know who we are. We're a newly appointed board. We started last spring, or spring of 2023, so like this year. And our main goal when we came together was really to find more ways in the community to get people involved, especially aiming towards like high school, middle school age, just because we felt like there's a lot to do more for like college age and even adults, and a lot less to do for around the middle school to high school age. So that was our main focus. But also with our events, we wanted to allow families to come as well. So not just allow the middle and high schoolers, but just open it up to the whole community, and make kind of a community wide events that everyone could attend. And as well as that, we have just multiple projects that we're working on. And we hold meetings about once a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we just talk about the things that we want to do as our group, the things that went well with our past events, things we need to change for the next event, and so on and so forth. So now we'll get into some of our events.
So our first event that we held was an outdoor movie night. We targeted this more towards high school students, with Ferris Bueller's Day Off being our movie. We thought it went really well. We had a pretty good turnout for the first one.
Great movie.
We had free popcorn and free water, and we're hoping to have some more. We'll have to do indoor movies now that it's getting colder, but we will work with the high schools and other places for that. But yeah, it turned out pretty good, and we hope to have more events like that. So tomorrow we actually have another event.
Yes, so we are hosting a Dragging Maine event tomorrow night. It will start at 7 p.m. We really just wanted to bring back the old nostalgia of Dragging Maine that many of you may know about.
I've never heard of it.
Why'd you look at me? Mia looked straight at me when she said that.
Hey, you're not the only one that did it.
Back when the roads were shorter.
Have to reopen the varsity.
Exactly.
Yes, so the event will start at 7. We will meet near Hayes Middle School, and we will have a police escort to Main Street so we can get the traffic flowing right away. And there will be the band Descendants. It is one of our members, Nathan Steckline, is in the band, and he has it with some of his friends. And they will be playing at Municipal Park. Around 7:45 is when that will start. So the drag will be from around 7:45, and then anyone in the community can enjoy the concert after.
What kind of music play?
There are all sorts of music. They have about an hour-long show, but they're playing all sorts of things.
Like 80s music?
I think
don't
so.
they'll go back that far.
I just want to know, Sandy, is what kind of police escorts did you get when you were dragging
We
me?
did not have them, nor did we.
I think when they escorted you was after they.
After you were.
We never got
The
escorted.
turnaround was the police department's parking.
That was the north turnaround.
Ours was a car wash, but yeah. That's
Any
awesome.
questions about our event? tomorrow?
I'm anxious for that. We're actually going to get in that just because we're going to see how it was versus the last one. Danny and I participated in the last one. There were so many cars. We were stuck in front of the municipal pool for 45 minutes, and we were just trying to get to a corner so we could turn. I bet yours is a lot more organized.
Thank you.
Is that the 2021? Yeah, that was awesome. That's cool.
Good stuff.
Is there anything that you guys are like, thing that's, how do I want to say, that's holding you back from having your events, or is everything going good for you guys?
Everything's going well. Just the main communication part, like for me, meeting with the police station to try to figure out how we're going to make things work. But once you get past the bump of having to meet everything and advertising your events, it's really just see how it goes from there. So.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's how many other events happen. You know, it goes to the police department when they host events downtown, and it seems to always work pretty good. But that's good to know. So.
Scheduling doesn't collide or
Yes.
anything. That's-
So another thing we're working on is Explorers programs. Excuse me. The current project on that is a fire department Explorers program, which would basically introduce youth members, basically high school students, into the fire service. And similar with Police Explorers, but that's to be worked on at a future date. So currently we're working with regional fire departments to try and enact a program. Any questions with that?
Great
I'm
idea.
really excited about that one. I've had the opportunity to sit in on some of their meetings, and I got to hear about this one from the very beginning. You're very passionate about it, and whenever you're passionate about something, it's going to work. I know that's going to happen. Are you an Eagle Scout at this point, or are you working on your Eagle?
I'm working on my Eagle
Very
Scout.
good. Congratulations.
That's great.
Thank you.
We also have some prospective projects coming up, such as an art competition. We haven't really worked out the kinks for that, but I'm hoping to get something maybe with a mural competition where anyone in the community can send in their design for a mural that they think represents Hayes, and then they'll win a prize and get their mural made and all that stuff. But again, we're working out the details on that. So any questions about
I
that?
know there's a bridge or two that could use some new murals. Isn't that right, Toby?
And then another thing that we are hoping to get is a mock election. The middle school has opted out, but TMP has opted in. So we will be targeting 8th grade students. They'll get the chance to experience an election, vote, and really just envelop themselves in that whole experience.
I love that.
That's really interesting, though, that one of the schools opt out. Well, did they give you a reason for it?
Yes, it was Hayes Middle School, and they said that they were hoping to involve something like that within their history curriculum. And they just hadn't yet this year. So for this year, they opted out, but they didn't necessarily say no to future years. So
It was so late in the year.
yeah,
They'll add it later, hopefully. But.
yes. And with that as well, we're hoping to not necessarily force anything upon them, but we really wanted to just start at a base to inform them about what makes a good candidate versus what makes a bad one. What qualities can you look for in somebody that's running versus what might not look as good.
Why'd you look at me?
I didn't say a word. I didn't even look up.
Because obviously we have a ton of great people that obviously you all ran very well as candidates and got elected, but we also know that sometimes there's not always the best candidates, and just some people have no idea what a good versus bad looks like, and maybe if you have a friend running, just pick your friend, and sometimes that's okay, but other times we just really want them to know not necessarily partisan in the way of voting, but what if you have values, making sure that what you think and who you're voting for somewhat align, not perfectly, but just looking for those good qualities within a candidate. And so that's something we just really wanted to promote within that whole mock election.
You know, one thing, if I could add to that, if you guys could really push to people, you know, what we had, 22% voted in the local election, which to me is just ridiculous.
Crazy.
You know, if you could push people to understand the importance of city, school, county, you know, we always talk about it, but it's about the same all the time. And if people would understand, you know, how much local affects them directly, you know, maybe you guys could be the ones to fix that. So.
Yes, yeah, we really wanted to promote that too, just how important it is voting. And we were also really hoping to get maybe our city commission involved and along with us, have you guys come out and talk about what you do and that kind of thing as well, just because us talking might be an influence, but from us, we've never necessarily ran for a position like that, so we don't necessarily have the experience.
Yep.
So to work along with people that had experience, we thought that would be a really good like event, especially for the 8th graders. Just
Yeah.
they're not quite in high school, but they're getting to that point where they're starting to mature and starting to understand things like that. And so we really just wanted that before you get to government as a senior, when they talk a lot about that too, just kind of a introductory type of lesson for them.
Great idea.
Very good
We're
idea.
hoping as part of that, not just to show like the importance of voting and everything, but that it can be fun too. You know, you can have a good experience with it. So.
I would agree.
And also hoping to get them to have an opportunity to like have a pretend vote so they kind of see how the ballot process works and how the whole voting process works for them too.
Yes, we were also talked about hoping to get one of the electronic voting systems just like set up while we're doing our presentation, just so they can kind of see that and walk through that and realize like it's really not that scary of a thing. Like it might sound kind of scary, but when you go there, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, and it is an important thing to do, and it doesn't take that much of your time.
5 minutes.
I think some people just think that it's going to take forever and they just don't have time for it, when in reality, I mean, that's not really the truth. So.
I would agree.
And with the electronic one, you don't have to worry about filling in the whole
Yes.
Right.
thing
Yeah.
with your pen just exactly right. You just
Mine's a tactile thing. I just like to fill it in.
exactly.
I mean, you guys are absolutely right with that, because I mean, informing yourselves early enough of, you know, how these processes work, and they do affect you. I mean, everybody that gets elected and sits in these seats, or like even on the school board side, 2 candidates got the exact same number of votes. Every single vote counts, especially locally. It makes almost a difference immediately. And those decisions made affect you the next week.
Yep.
I mean, when we make a decision on, you know, street maintenance or sewer cleaning, those happen immediately. Those are your dollars that go right back into your town. So identifying yourselves with how government works, who your candidates are, and maybe even influencing someone to get so involved that they might run someday themselves is huge. So I'm taking this on is wonderful for you guys.
And I think really, especially for you guys, when you're, especially the ones that are in Hayes High, you know, the school board election is affecting you, like immediately.
Yeah.
So, you know, getting involved, even if you're not voting, getting involved in and helping, you know, learn about and promote different candidates. Because you can be involved in influencing people, because it is directly affecting you. So I think it's a really important thing to think about and be involved in.
Yeah, and there's just 7 of you right now, and look at the influence that you guys have done in, what is it, 5 months, 6 months now?
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff that you guys have done in such a short amount of time has already created a positive influence on the community. You can continue to spread that, you know, contagious nature of community involvement and, you know, just being positive about what you do. I think I've told you guys this before, but I don't know if I ever imagined what these guys would do with this board. These 7 kids are absolutely amazing.
My first meeting I sat in on, I told Mason that right after we walked out. I said, I say all the time that getting to know all of the young people that we take the time to get to know, our future's in very good hands. And we're really proud of the things that you're doing. And local government is so important. It's, as Mason said and Elena said, you impact it immediately. I believe local government is the most important government, whether it's the city, school board, or the county. And those are the things that we're fixing your street tomorrow if that's what it needs. So you guys are doing really good stuff. I knew you were gonna have a fun thing like a movie night, but I also knew there was big stuff coming.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Say, I've had the pleasure of attending some of your meetings, and the amount of work you can do in such a short time is phenomenal.
It
You
really
guys
is.
really are great leaders, and I'm just amazed. I have had the pleasure of attending your movie night, and it was very well organized, so look forward to tomorrow night. Great work.
And also to add to our movie night, and hopefully we've talked about moving forward in the future. We've tried to start kind of somewhat partnering with local businesses to not only give us support, but to give them support as well. So for our movie night, our parents helped provide the water, and then we partnered with iSmile, and they provided the popcorn. And so we're hoping just for our future events to keep getting the community as involved as possible. Obviously the people, but also possibly other businesses, the food trucks, just not only to give us support, but also the local businesses. We want it to be like an overall community thing, not just about us, not just about the people, but also about like our whole community and supporting everyone. So that's something that's also very important to us as a group, I think.
Well, you're terrific.
Yeah, you guys are doing a
Remember,
great
if
job.
you don't go to Fort Hayes, because I think you should go to Fort Hayes.
I
But
agree.
if you don't and you go somewhere else, remember to come back to Hayes because
Always come home.
You can always come back.
This
We
is
need
the
the
place
next
to be.
Mason to, be in youth leadership and come back and end up being on the city commission.
Yeah, I did it back in 6th grade. I sat where you sat with Mayor Schwaller at the time, and now I'm here. And I love this community, and I can tell you guys do too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Or
5.
fine.
Watch out.
One of the interesting things about starting things so early, we talk all the time about the water issues we have in Hayes and the wonderful program we have about conservation. And we're one of the one of the lowest per capita usage of water in the whole country. Starts in school. It starts those kids in kindergarten and 1st grade when we're making presentations and taking things there. And this has lasted, how long, Toby? How long is the conservation program?
Since the early 90s.
Yeah. And it's every year, and we
30
just
years.
get better and better and better. So you're on the right track with that as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, so I did have a meeting with Mrs. Schoaf today, who is the junior high principal, and she's hoping to get it for the whole junior high, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Oh, that's awesome.
Be able to go, and they're hoping to get all of you involved to come present and kind of just show the process of what it's like to campaign and how to put yourself out there, and then the kids would all have an election. So they're hoping to host that maybe in January is kind of the date we're looking, sometime in the morning. So once we get those details worked out, we'll contact you and we'll get more plans.
We would be proud.
Yeah, and I like the
Absolutely.
idea because all 5 of us probably do it differently, but it doesn't really matter how you do it. But it's no, I like that. If I could be there, I'd love to be there.
Yeah,
So.
and just getting familiar faces even too, just for
Yep.
the kids to realize who represents our community and just to kind of get to know you a little more.
And we're not mean, scary people. We're really not.
Well, Sean,
Depends on what. No, anyway. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate
thank you
it.
very much, and thanks for
And
coming
then
to talk
the
about it.
one reason that we're kind of wanting to do it in January is it's like National Local Government
Oh, yeah.
Day or whatnot, and so we really thought that with that, just having that event would be another promotion to not only vote for local government but also get to know some of the local government in town.
But is that when they had the If I Was Mayor competition where you can win scholarships?
It's during the legislative session, so either January or February,
February.
something like that, right?
Because I know we've had a local girl here that won a scholarship at one time. So very cool.
And then, or do we have any questions about that?
I think so.
Great work.
Okay, and then one of our last events that we're really trying to work on right now is our Battle of the Bands, and I'm really not the head of that. It's Nathan who's performing tomorrow night actually with his band, but what we know so far is he's working on hopefully April, I think is his date that he's hoping to host this. And at first they were thinking about doing it outside, but we also have mentioned getting in communication with Dustin Rose to see if maybe we could use the Fox as a venue, since they're already set up for that kind of thing, and just another way to help promote places and people in the community. And so with that, he was just hoping to get bands of all ages and styles and everything involved, and then just have like a nice little friendly competition. People could come and compete. They could come out and just watch, but maybe charge a small entry fee, and then kind of split the winnings between first, second, third, or first and second, or something of that. But definitely be looking out for more details, and it's just another way to get people involved. Maybe not necessarily. We've also looked into doing sporting type competitions, but we are trying to, once again, just get everyone in the community involved. And we know not everyone's athletic, not everyone wants to go out and be a leader and really show themselves or talk in front of their whole class or whatever it may be. So we wanted to give those people that are more interested in the musical side of things or artsy side of things something that they could also enjoy, which obviously there's people that wouldn't enjoy that, but we want to just open it up to everyone and make our community something that is diverse but also connected at the same time.
Great idea.
Great.
Are there any questions about that?
I think so.
Well, we thank you so much for letting us talk.
Thanks so
and
much
visit
for
at your
coming.
meeting today.
Thank you, yes, for being here.
And yeah, just thank you for appointing us as a board, and thank you for letting us make decisions.
You
And
bet.
Yeah.
We love
And
it.
have your own shirts.
Yes, I like it. I like it. So, great job, guys.
Thank you
very
guys
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reuter, you created this. Thank you. Great job.
Of course, it's all them. They
Yeah.
they make me look good.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody needs to.
Somebody needs, exactly.
It's a big job.
Another item we have on here is Colin, you're going to come up and talk about the common consumption update. Everybody loves, right?
Well, Colin's coming up. I like their idea of the Explorer program and police and fire careers, but please don't overlook the thrilling careers of Public Works Director or Finance Director, too. Throwing that out.
Well, Kim's not retiring
Thrilling.
for 40 years.
Good point, good point.
Good afternoon, Colin Belzer, Deputy City Manager, and so wanted to provide you all a common consumption area update. I've done, a few each couple of weeks as we meet some milestones. But just as a background, back in late August, you did approve a resolution to establish the common consumption area, and once that was approved, city staff started working with ABC on getting the permit, paperwork in process, as well as what we were required to do with our, what I call signs and lines. So you might have seen these around the downtown area. We have signage posted on stop signs or utility poles. We were allowed to try and utilize as much existing infrastructure as we had to put up the signs. And then we also got the sidewalk decals that are throughout the downtown. And then we also had to paint across roads or alleys a similar message about entering or exiting the common consumption area.
Is that neon green and neon pink there that you put up?
Red and green,
Oh.
but whatever pops. To date, we've probably spent about $4,500 on what we were required to do for our lines and signs. And then the state did issue us our permit. It's posted in the, has to be hanging in the district. So it is in the Union Pacific Plaza shadow box. So that is ready to go. Finance was preparing about 100 letters that will be going out. Well, got out of the city hall today, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Notifying downtown business owners that we had addresses for, that the district is technically live right now. If businesses want to apply, or that are, I should say, that are able to apply, because you have to be within or adjacent, and you have to already have, you have to be able to sell alcohol through the state, that you can apply for the permit to participate in the common consumption area. We have established some resources. We do have a webpage on our website. It's on the front page too. There's a link to it. It says common consumption area. On there, we've also included a hyperlink to an image of a map, which is actually the one in the I'll go back to that one. So that map, so people can bring it up and print it if they'd like. And there's a link to an FAQ as well, which we developed with Agent White. That's going out in the letter that that Kim worked so hard on today. And we also are working on a kind of like a business brief. I gave Sean actually a prototype tonight. It's like basically has 5 speaking points that we'll give to businesses that would like them so they can hang up. But it basically says, here's the boundaries. Don't go outside these, when you see these signs and lines, don't go past. Be respectful. It's kind of like a quick little thing that hopefully patrons and people participating in the area will be able to educate people. So, any questions?
Well, yeah, I will add to that. My business, as you know, applied. I talked to Agent White. We were just going to put stickers on a cup because we thought it'd be cheaper and simpler. But he said that's a big no-no because with the moisture they could fall off and stuff. So, there's a few business owners not very happy about this. My business will respect that. We will train our employees to respect the businesses that don't want the drinks in their stores, which I totally understand that. But we're going to do everything our best to be nice to our neighbors, I should say, and hopefully everybody else will be too. So I don't personally think there'll be a lot of issues, but we'll see.
Just as a clarification for the public, it is live now, but it does not mean you can just walk in with your own alcohol.
Correct. You must purchase the beverage at a business that is participating in the district. So they'll have a separate permit they get through the state.
And the businesses will participate by applying through the state.
Correct.
Okay.
And none of them have done that yet, so.
I did apply. I did apply.
But it's not, if you don't have your sticker up or anything yet.
I don't have anything up. No.
And
I've been
I
waiting on him.
greatly appreciate the education piece that we've added
Yes.
to the website. I think that's
Yep.
valuable to all the patrons so they can try to understand and avoid any ticketing potentially. So
Will you guys send out a what is that called? Or flash or
Press release?
no, not the
No,
flash.
the
Like
thing-
like a news flash?
Yeah, a news flash,
one
just so
they-
people
yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Because people for weeks since you guys start putting the signs, hey, is this legal? Like, no, it's not legal. So just so people know, if you don't mind.
And is it possible once we have businesses that are qualified and they're participating that we can add them on the map or something that says these are the locations where you can purchase?
I mean, yeah, we just have to be able to keep track of them, which
Sure.
should be notified through Agent White, but
Okay.
people
And,
notifying us too would be helpful.
and if
Sure.
we have major issues, he can shut it down anytime, right? I mean, you have the authority to okay. Hopefully we don't, but
Well, I look forward to hopefully getting some more events downtown at the pavilion and places so that it makes it a more friendly and attractive to bring people into the downtown area.
That's what it's all about.
Colin's worked pretty hard on this. And not just Colin, Jared, Jesse, Melissa, Kim. So they deserve a lot of credit to get it up. and
Appreciate
running
all the
pretty
work.
quick.
thank you all. Okay. Toby, you have some updates?
I have 2 quick items, one good news, one bad news. The good news is the administrative law judge convened the transfer proceedings on Monday morning and formally ended the transfer hearing in the R9 development process. So the judge now has 90 days to issue his ruling, up to 90 days to issue his ruling on the proposed transfer. Once his ruling is determined, the hearing panel has up to 90 days to ratify or modify that hearing. So we are progressing. The bad news is in May of '22, the governing body awarded bids for 3 dump trucks. We replaced our 2 large tandem dump trucks and a single axle dump truck along with salt spreaders and plows for the trucks. The low bid was from Wichita Kenworth for about $567,000. And so Jesse received word last week that unfortunately Wichita Kenworth is choosing not to honor their bid. They have told us that they have the trucks, but they're not going to deliver them for the bid price. And they want, I believe, $182,000 more than what they actually bid and the bid that was awarded by the governing body. So after consultation with the city attorney, we're not playing that game. So we are going to go back out to bid for the trucks. We had a truck budgeted in '24 to replace, so we're going to go out for a bid package of 4 trucks, not 3. I have the power to debar vendors from bidding.
Can you
And
exclude them?
I'm considering doing that, but I haven't made up my mind yet. I would say if they choose to bid again, then the commission would really need to take that into consideration, unless they have a truck on the lot promised to
Right.
deliver immediately. So
Wow.
I'm going to talk with Jesse and the city attorney about whether or not they get debarred. That's the only updates I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Reuter.
What's exciting about the R9? I mean, now it's TikTok, 90 days, 90 days.
Lock on.
Okay. We're close. Again, thank you guys for coming out and speaking. That's awesome. You too, Neil. I like you too. Yeah.
I don't.
Even though you didn't speak, you know, you had the chance.
He doesn't have to look at him.
It's better.
But, I mean, I wanted to thank everybody who came out and voted. They must really like what we're doing up here because the three of us were able to get back on. So sorry, guys, you got to deal with the three of us for at least another 2 years. But I think it just shows the amount of positive progress that we have made in the short time together and what we can accomplish going forward. So let's, stick to our guns, what we're working on. We have a lot of positive things going, and let's not let up now. The city seems to want us to do that. So thank you all for going out and voting and, allowing us to serve again. That's absolutely wonderful.
Commissioner Cunningham.
So Mason took a lot of my words, but yes, I really want to thank everybody who showed up to vote. I know the percentage is low who showed up, but I think it speaks volumes for the support that they gave and that they're allowing us to sit up here and continue to serve this community. Speaking of excitement, I think thinking of the growth with the variety of housing that we saw tonight, with potentially being able to move forward with the changes that we've made, I think that just helps us continue in the right direction. So thank you again to everyone.
Commissioner Barrick.
I will concur, but I will let them have the words on that. It's great to be able to participate in an election and to participate in the government. I also wanted to share while we were working on the election and counting things, we had a State Kansas Museum Association meeting here in Hayes that we hosted that brought people from 62 institutions across the state, 130 people, and we introduced them to Moss Thorns, the Historical Society, the Sternberg, and some of the restaurants in town. And it was the first time in 25 years that that meeting has been in Hayes.
That's awesome.
And there was people from all over the state. They were very enthused and excited, and they thought really highly of Hayes and the things that we've done since the last time they were here. So I think it's really shows off our community. And also on that same night, I went and bragging on the youth, National Honor Society induction at Hayes High, there were 50 kids.
That's awesome.
That's a big
Fantastic.
percentage. That's a lot of kids that are doing really well in school. And so as we mentioned with the youth leadership here, there are going to be a lot of really great leaders coming
Sure.
through the school system, and we can be very proud of that.
That's great news.
I wanted to congratulate the three of you. I didn't know what I was going to do if I didn't have Mason to kick around anymore. So that was pretty exciting for me. It really is. I think it speaks a lot. This was city and county elections. This was school board. This was local. Usually it takes 22% isn't terrible. I've seen 18% before. So getting it up to 22, it's not wonderful, but it's better than it was. I think I agree totally. This community knows that we're doing some good things, that it's going to continue, and we've got one way to go, and that's up. And I want to thank everybody that got out to vote, and thank you guys for choosing to serve again.
Yeah, absolutely. I congratulate all three of you guys. It wouldn't be no fun if I didn't get to serve with you guys. So it's now, honestly, school board and city had some great candidates. Everybody that ran, and it just shows every vote counts. You look at the school board, and we have a lot of positive things going on with the city, and I guess maybe we're boring because we're pretty positive, but I'm hoping the new school board members can look at what they've got going on with the school bond, which I think is, like we said earlier, is going to affect the youth very soon, and hopefully they can get along, be a little bit more transparent, and get things done kind of like we do, I think. And I think we do a good job being transparent, and we're going to continue being that way. And And thank you guys for being here tonight. We appreciate it very much. We're adjourned.